everybody I talked to over the last week, as I felt really sad and emotionally torn, I wanted to just smash their faces in. And like, they weren't saying or doing anything that made me want to beat their faces to a bloody pulp, but I really, really felt like destroying something beautiful. Hashtag Fight Club. But let's
get some names. Let's get some names.
No. It was
Jerry.
Right. It was pretty much everybody I talked to. But because one thing that I've reconciled a long time ago, and this is a fact, men, we have ghost periods. And as a boy, I didn't realize that unless they were disturbed by, birth control, women's
Oh my God, that explains so much.
I know it does. I'm talking to all my male listeners that don't understand why every few weeks you want to fuck, eat, cry, and fight. Because we men are tied to women's menstrual cycles that we don't understand. And menstrual cycles are tied to the moons and the moons. The moon. The moons.
Sorry, we were talking about Star Wars at some point during this podcast.
The moons of Tatooine.
I'm Craig Lewis.
I'm Nathan Capisser.
And in this podcast, we're going to study the age-old question, is it racist?
Is it racist?
I do have one follow-up question to that question as the title. I gotta wonder, if you have to ask if it's racist, doesn't that kind of make it racist? Or should you at least play it smart and just...
That is a general rule of thumb, is that if you have to ask if something's racist, it's racist.
It's probably racist, but
so
I could be bordering on the probably part where maybe this time it's not.
If you don't want to hear the finer points, you could kind of turn the podcast off now. Because
you've already made up your mind on whether or not it is.
And every time they're like, oh, look, is Harry Potter racist? I can just skip that one. I mean, they kind of answered that in the last one.
Long answer, yes with a but. Short answer, no with an if.
So we got one hell of a fucking podcast. Marquis Woolford, he's been on the podcast a few times before.
Of fair enough fame.
Fair enough fame.
He's also got some other fames besides that. He's a wrestling legend in the Syracuse
legend
in the Syracuse, New York circuits.
He's an author. He's written a lot of books. Google his name. You can find all sorts of books he's written. He's written erotic fiction. He's written supernatural fiction. I'm pretty sure he's written supernatural erotic fiction.
Ooh.
He's a man of many extreme opinions, and some of which I agree with, some of which I very firmly disagree with, some of which I find compelling, most of which I find compelling.
Most. Yeah. At least when it comes to Star Wars being racist.
And let's preface this here, because I don't want any fanboys getting pissed off. This conversation is a lot bigger than just Star Wars, and it's a lot bigger than just racism. We talk about some really groundbreaking ideas about race, about gender, about sex, about sexuality, about society, and there's probably a good 40 minutes in the podcast where we don't even mention Star Wars. It gets pretty heavy, but there's also a lot of Star Wars talk. Obviously, it's all coming from a framework of Star Wars, but it's hard to keep conversations like these on a leash. Ooh, bad choice of words. And with as much as we said, there's a lot that's left unsaid. Obviously, is there any end to what can be said about this broad list of topics? Racism, sex, gender, sexuality, and Star Wars, probably the 5 most important things in America.
The talks of those subjects will never cease. They'll just keep going and going and going. But I hope you guys did a really fine job, because these are subtle waters that you have to cross into sometimes with big issues like these.
Yeah, it's obviously these are things that a lot of people are afraid to talk about, and a lot of people, they're not necessarily afraid to talk about them, but they're afraid of being ostracized for talking about them.
It's tough because, we know that in society, everybody has some hint of ingrained racism embedded in them just from the generations of how we've evolved as humans. You know, everybody has a racist grandma or like a racist great grandma, you know, regardless of what side it's on. So people are afraid that, you know, something might slip, and it's not something they nowadays intentionally think and hate, you know, and vet towards, but they're like, oh, that was something that was in my brain from like when I was a kid being raised, and you saw that, and it was more, you know, I don't want to say accepted, but it kind of was more socially accepted.
You know, I've heard a lot of people say that, like, you know, like, hey, everybody's a little bit racist, even, you know, and I get what they're saying, and it makes sense. And I feel like I don't want to come off like George Bush when he was asked, what's one mistake you've made in your 8 years of presidency, and he couldn't think of one. But
I've made no mistakes.
But I don't know. I've never in my life like caught myself thinking something racist. Like, I really haven't. And you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to man up to like, whoa, that was sexist right there. But I'm going to
pony up.
I'm going to own it. Well, that's just fucking specious.
See, we're all specious or racist or sexist.
Jeez, Craig, I had no idea you were a brony. I'm going to own up to, like, I've caught myself having sexist thoughts throughout my life, and nothing so extreme as, like, to think, like, women aren't equal or, like, something like that. But, like,
you know, you go out to eat with a girl and you're like, she shouldn't be paying. Or, like, you go out to eat with, you know, you bring her to your house and you're like,
Craig, that was private. We said we wouldn't talk about that on the podcast.
You better start cooking because I'm starting to get hungry. Like, those are vaguely
like,
sexist
that's just
thoughts.
normal. I mean, that's just normal that I would.
Okay, I know that's probably extreme too.
That's horrible.
I'm not saying
that's.
I thought those thoughts either. Of course not. I would never dream of it.
No, but there are, like, so I get, you know, I get that. And I don't really ever remember being homophobic, but I did say gay and fag as a kid, and I don't say that shit. I haven't said that shit since I was like 13.
Because you reflected on it and was like, that probably wasn't right.
Yeah, because even at 13 and 12 and whatever, when I was still saying it, when a boss would beat me on a video game, and I'd be like, oh, the F word, you know?
Oh, fuck.
Not that F word. I knew that it wasn't right to discriminate against gay people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just didn't think I needed to stop saying that word when bad guys killed me on video games. And then eventually I realized, like, well, no, that's not right, you know, and I stopped. So I understand the idea, like, when you say, like, everybody's a little bit racist and stuff. Hey, maybe I just haven't noticed those thoughts, and they have occurred at some point in my life. And maybe that philosophy's right, and everyone is a little bit racist, or maybe not. Maybe you're just a fucking awful, horrible bigot.
Right.
And I need a new podcast partner.
I was actually gonna explain.
I'm kidding.
I was going to say that's not to say, like, you as an adult, you know, these things shouldn't be said about other people, and it's not right, and so you don't say them.
Yes.
You know, and you know, like, oh, and everybody's fighting their own prejudices every day, like trying to be a better person. Well, most people, good people, are doing that. So,
and I find I'm still prejudiced against types of people. It's usually not based on nationality or race or gender, but more on, I don't know, ways that people identify, I guess. Like,
yeah, I'm like, growing up, I was all like, Sega. And I was like, fucking Nintendo bastards.
Oh, really? Because, I'm really prejudiced against Sega players. No, but, you know, I don't know, like, certain types of, like, alpha males that, like, embody, like, certain types of roles. I find myself, like, prejudging them. Certain, you know.
Just be like, oh, so, like, you see that person, and you're like, he's that kind of person.
He, she, I prejudge people as vapid sometimes. And I'm not saying that's okay. I'm saying that those are things that, yes, you should get over, because there's a lot of people that I've gotten to know throughout the years of my life that I would have prejudged, not based upon their gender or the color of their skin or anything, or their religion or anything, but just based upon their appearance. Sure, based upon their appearance.
And you could have missed out on a great friend. So
yeah.
Everybody has a possibility of being friends out there. So let's all just People now, everybody get together, so to love one another right now.
How long can we sing that before we get sued? So we apologize. You can already tell from the intro that there's a lot of non-Star Wars talk going on. But we're going to talk about Star Wars. We're going to talk about Mace Windu. We're going to talk about Lando Calrissian. We're going to talk about Watto.
Oh, because Mace Windu is actually an alien, right? He wasn't
Well, everyone in Star Wars is an alien.
Right?
Aren't they?
Makes sense, doesn't
Aren't
it?
they?
But he wasn't like a human, supposedly.
Mace Windu?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a human.
I heard different. Maybe my sources are bad, but...
Well, I mean, Wikipedia is only a few clicks away. I was going to say one click away, but it's more than one click. Wikipedia, Mace Windu.
See, because that's the type of thing that happens with me is people tell me something, and then I forget to fact check it, and I just take it as fact. So I'm just like, Donald Trump makes the sun come up.
Yeah, he's a human. I mean, I'm pretty sure anybody that... What the fuck, Wikipedia?
Banner ads at the top that play
Has anyone
video.
died in this house? Don't sue us. Don't sue us. That was your fault, whatever company's trailer that was.
No. That means they have to pay us now because we put they're sponsoring us now. New sponsor!
No, I'm pretty sure anyone in Star Wars that looks just human is human. Unless they're like, there's... Twi'leks aren't human. Different, like, yeah.
Droids aren't human.
How geeky are you guys listening to this? Do you get those references? I don't know.
Do you ever sit down and think about these things?
The subject matter at hand, I guess, is that we are talking about something that a lot of people don't talk about, whether it's out of tact or whether it's out of fear. It's not always out of fear. Sometimes it's about like, look, I just don't talk about touchy subjects because I get along fine in life. Talking about last night's episode of Lost.
Hey, that sounds like
I live in 2004.
Really? Yeah. But that was me in 2004. It's like, I just get by fine, not even like thinking about it.
Episode 3, huh? That's going to be the good prequel. So we talk about it. And what we're doing here is we're expressing ideas. We're not saying, no, this is the way it is. This is the concrete truth. Well, excuse me. If Marquis was here, he would correct me right now and he'd say, I am, yeah. So anything that Marquis is saying, he is saying is the concrete goddamn truth. I'm throwing ideas out there and I'm throwing out opinions and thoughts. And opinions are just thoughts and ideas that change throughout time like everything. And we're having a discussion, and hopefully we and you and everyone comes out better for it, because I think we discuss a lot of really cool, intriguing, thought-provoking things.
Yeah, like think about hard things, hard truths, and at least open up a little more to discussing it and getting to the core of what the problem really is. The government.
The reptilians.
Damn
and racism. Fuck reptilians. Flat Earth. I'm out. Mic drop.
Ooh. I remember the moment that Star Wars really had a very profound effect on me as a young black boy who didn't identify myself as black. Growing up in LA, I was just a kid, and Star Wars was this amazing thing that I had heard about. I wasn't born when originally the first Star Wars films were put out, but I was born in 81.
Man, I was literally just about to ask, may I ask what year you were born?
81,
and you answered it.
By the time I was like, 9, 10, or 11, my older cousins and brothers had,
Okay, so you're 4 years older than me, so I'm very interested to hear. Now wait, Jedi came out 82, 80.
Still, I wasn't old enough to
You weren't old enough to even know, yeah.
By the time I started getting into Star Wars, it had already been a cultural phenomenon, and my older cousins and like I said, brother, they were always Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. And Millennium Falcon was
Star Wars is one of those things. It's weird to me that as I got older, I started to actually understand like that it hadn't like things like Star Wars and rock and roll seem like they've just been around forever.
Right.
Until you reach a certain age and you realize they've only been around for a couple decades.
Right. And Star Wars,
well, rock and roll longer than a couple decades.
Right. That's a whole other conversation. But with the moment that I had with Star Wars was when, being told that this was just this cultural phenomenon and then not having a racial identity tied to this film. I was loving Star Wars, and in particular this character, Darth Vader, who is, we all know, voiced by James Earl Jones. He was like the voice of like my father and fear and Luke, I am your father, and having lost my father. Like Star Wars touched upon a lot of aspects of human experience, but the most profound moment that I had was when he had died, or right before he died, and after Darth Vader, and when all the build up and hearing like your father, whoever saying, the voice of Darth Vader is black, but the man playing him is white, and it's like I'm 9. It's like, why does that matter? And I'm like, what's going on? What do you mean the guy that's in the suit is not the one talking? And what do you mean here? And so I'm trying to process all this.
So this isn't a documentary?
Won't he take off his helmet and whoever's talking be that guy? And I'll never forget the way I felt. I felt so betrayed and let down when Luke took off the helmet after he had he had took a blaster shot or no, the Emperor had raped him with
spoiler alert.
Yeah, if you hadn't seen it, Also, Han Solo dies in The Force Awakens. Don't edit that. If you haven't seen it now. Oh well, but no, I'm an asshole if you didn't know.
Yeah, for real though. If you haven't seen it by now, if you haven't seen it by now, you really shouldn't care about the spoiler that much.
Exactly. You don't even know who Han Solo is. So
if you care about that spoiler,
you saw
and you haven't seen it,
the first
fuck
week.
you, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, anyways, when the helmet came off and this bloated, blotchy, sad white dude was like, I don't know what I expected, but as a kid, I wasn't prepared that wasn't like, that didn't match the voice. And in that moment, it's the way that I fear that my young daughters, as they try to grapple with this concept of God and this white Jesus and them being a young black female trying to identify as this thing that's in such opposition to this other thing that's being held up as like, oh, and it's like, I was so torn. And so as we enter into a conversation of, is Star Wars racist? Let's go, because right there as a young black boy, I'm hearing this voice come out that was I am the scariest thing in the universe. And I'm like, I get behind that. And then it's just, there are no black people in Star Wars A New Hope. Except for the disembodied voice, which is the crux of what makes this whole film fly. I am your father in the whole series.
So when we ask,
let's go.
When we ask, is Star Wars racist? This is a question. It's not an easy question to just look at.
It is to me
at face value.
Jar Jar Binks.
It could be, I mean, what does that question mean? This question could mean, is the creator of Star Wars racist? Did the creator have racist intentions? This question could mean, is this a racist work of art? A work of art with racist subtext or a racist message even? Or does it mean, is it a product of a racist society or environment? I don't think it's a question that can just be like, is Star Wars racist? Yes or no? And that's why we did we decided to sit down and do a podcast about it and waste you guys' time.
Well, first of all, if you listen to me, you ain't having your time wasted. I'm going to learn you some things.
I'm sorry, I can't. I'm very self-deprecating. They expect the self-deprecation from me, so I'm hurting myself for them. Every podcast, I cut a little piece of myself out.
If you guys can see the blood flowing. All right. Well,
how much they sap from me, they won't even like the fucking face.
From one Messiah to another, if I may, as much as you are self-deprecating, I am very gratuitous in my self-love, as I should be, because I love that I
love myself. I kid.
Oh, well,
I hate myself too, though. I'm a dick.
No, I don't hate anything, but I wish I could hate myself more. But when it comes to Star Wars,
I can help you out with that.
No, you couldn't. I have on a bow tie. If they can see the bow tie,
plenty of people have tried.
In tandem with the sweater vest, I am quite dapper, if I say so myself, and that's just the beginning. Come down a rabbit hole, ladies and gentlemen. And here's the thing about Star Wars, and is it racist? Of course it's racist. That's a very simple question to answer, but that's only because society is racist. And so it's just that simple. It's not that Star Wars or George Lucas or Disney by an extension is particularly racist, but how can we live in a world that's not racist when first you got to understand what racism is? It's a necessity in a world, in particular a country and a culture that's driven by capitalism.
Racism is a necessity, you say?
Well, without question. It's not even a thing to wonder or question like, in a
necessity?
social, political, economic model.
Now wait, a necessity
in a capitalist society as an economic.
Well, hold on. A necessity meaning
system.
an inevitability or an intentional necessity.
Yes to both. Because, all right, understand this. Capitalism is that social economic policy is driven by competition.
So you're saying it's necessary to our current economic model, not to a successful
No. It's the last
model.
step before a utopian model is you look at the progression of social economic systems. You move from socialist to communist and fascist. Those words exist. They're not just words that are thrown out there. They're like, oh, those are pretty. No, you see the development of all these models that they've been utilized by different cultures from, agrarian, feudal societies and medieval societies. And you look at World War II and you look at how all the Axis and the Allied powers came together and they looked at a different system like this works and we'll take this. And so right now we're at the border between one of the most effective models and we're transitioning to a model that's a lot more a combination of all. Like a lot of people who are against socialism, socialism is the devil, Obama's a nigger. Can I say nigger? I already said it.
You can say whatever the fuck you want on this podcast.
So, Obama, Trump for, whatever. Here's the thing. We have many socialist institutions such as healthcare and the library. That's a socialist institution. That's free. And, people don't seem to understand social economic policy. So when it comes to capitalism, the idea that there are different races, that's an illusion. There's only one race, human. So the idea of a distinction of races as opposed to a distinction of culture, it drives competition. Oh, the Jews do this, the blacks do this, the Italians do this. And so when you look at how America was constructed in the early beginnings of the country, they put different racial and social economic groups against one another. And they've always done that. So the greatest group to put against each other are the browns versus the whites.
So the way I guess I see racism is sort of it's like a vestigial evolutionary trait almost.
To an extent.
Like it's tribalism. When people when there were different groups of humans like starting to form and I don't know, I could be totally wrong. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not an evolution.
You're talking about something that's a natural sense of distinguishing, but the fact that it's preyed upon is intentional.
Yes.
By the powers that be.
It's been exacerbated, manipulated, exploited.
It's not like, oh, did we do that? No.
Absolutely. For thousands of years, it's been exploited by fucking
the conclave of like very powerful people that meet every so often to decide who's going to win the Super Bowl and who's going to be elected president.
The Union Grove is actually like 2 episodes from now in Fairpoint.
Shout out to all the people running shit. Holla at your boy. It's Marquis Woolford. I introduced the internet. Come get me. I'm in Syracuse. What's good?
Listen in 2 episodes. We're doing a whole episode on
I want to give a shout out right quick, if I could, to all of the secret societies out there from the, God disciples, the B's and the C's, Masons, and anybody out there. Because, real talk, right? That's who really listening. There's a lot of people that don't get it, and they own Illuminati. No, there's no like goat demon in the bottle of Capitol Records like bonding his soul to like records. You know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna talk. Like I'm not afraid of the truth or putting shit together. And my man Nate, he out here giving a vehicle, a voice to people that get it. Like I get it. And when I don't get it, I'm getting it because I'm talking to someone like you that I respect your intelligence, and you're going to push and I'm going to push you. And those conversations is going to, expose the truth. Because I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid somebody to come get me because I'm speaking what's real, because at the end of the day, good is always going to win out.
Word. That's the last thing this podcast is afraid of people being offended.
You can murder me if you want to.
We can
don't murder me.
Sign that one, post date it, send it to ISIS, and send it to the Scientology Celebrity
ISIS,
Center.
That's him. I didn't say that. I'm not even. I got kids, so he ain't got no kids. I love everybody. All right, I just want to say, too, I talk a lot, and I sometimes tend to talk reckless. I certainly do not want any powerful, influential people to come get me. I do understand that I'm a wise and passionate individual, but
the opinions expressed by Marquis Woolford do not reflect the opinions of Secret Room Multimedia, nor even do the opinions expressed by me. Craig Lewis fucking co-owns this thing, and we're not speaking for him. And this is a podcast for discussion, because I think what's most important is that discussion happens. People should just have honest, frank discussion and not be convinced. If I ever seem like I'm harping on something, it's because I want to make sure people understand what I'm trying to say, and not because I want them to think that I'm right. I just want to make sure that I got my point, my idea across successfully.
And you're right to you. That's important. You're right to you, and it is predicated on everything that you.
I don't think there is an inherent right or wrong
for you though. In that moment,
I think that the best way that human beings right now can find their best answers is they can use this language thing they came up with to convey ideas to each other.
So it's a general approximation to say you're right for that moment, but as long as you're willing to challenge that rightness in that moment, like right is just a little stone in this larger pond that you stand on for the moment. You don't think that's the whole path, but it's enough to get you there. Up until I was 6, I believed in Santa Claus. Around 6, I started questioning, like, man, is that really practical? And the older I got, I was like, well, maybe there's a spirit of Santa Claus. So you stand on rightness in the moment, and then you grow.
I don't think there is a right or wrong. I was going to say, even with respect to Santa Claus, which you actually acknowledged by saying when you got older, you started thinking about the spirit of Santa Claus. I don't think there is a right or wrong. I think that, I think that there are ideas.
Hold on,
because we are thinking animals, and ideas are how we get around and maneuver our way through the world.
So don't hold on to that sense of like just ethereal flow. So there are some hard, incontrovertible truths that you do have to acknowledge, and those truths, they range from being moments to like intrinsic, solid truths.
Most of those we don't need to discuss because they're truths, and there are some of them that people want to debate and discuss,
or the ones that people don't even want to talk about. Look, like, let's get real. Okay, let's get real. That's the thing people don't want to do.
I'm not having this conversation with you again, Marquis. The world is flat.
It actually is.
I kid.
Why are we told that the world is round and we ain't never seen no round shit? Like, it don't look round to me. Motherfucker just accept that the world is round like it might not be flat.
But
people show you pictures and then you supposed to accept that. Oh, I guess it's round. Okay. It might be flat. Y'all trying to fool me.
Okay, calm down, B.O.B.
No. Now I'm suspecting that the world is flat. Now I'm really upset about this round bullshit that everybody look at me like I'm gonna go start saying the world is flat. When people look at me like I'm stupid, I'm like, how do you know? I saw a picture.
That's another
you're
podcast.
A dickhead. Oh yeah, you're a dickhead. You saw a picture. Talk to me when you kept walking and got back to where you was at. Then tell me the shit is motherfucking round. They might be having some kind of shit.
That's another fucking podcast. God damn it.
If I keep walking left, I might get somewhere. No, don't bother to walk. It's round.
Neil.
Now I'm suspicious about this whole round world bullshit. That's the podcast we got. Star Wars is racist in the conversation. There's 3 black people in the whole 9 films is racist in the conversation. I had all this shit about the Ewoks and the fucking the Wookiees and why they're more other species. But no, the world is flat.
Can I take those reins from you for just a moment?
What else is there to say? The world is flat. I'm depressed. I've been lied to.
As we were saying about racism,
3 black people.
It is what I was trying to say was that it was a vestigial trait in the sense that it wasn't racism when it was useful. When it was useful, it was just I only trust the people that smell like me that I know that I recognize.
Animalistic. You're right. You named it.
And
then you're absolutely right.
It became racism, and this is the exact halfway point between what I was saying and what you were saying. We just merged our opinions. It became racism when it became manipulated and exploited as a tool for certain people to maintain power at the expense of other people.
Not certain people. We could be specific.
Sacrificing power.
I don't know why we're speaking.
Just a vague certain people.
Detached. I love that.
I mean, just a vague.
Are these certain people in the room?
Oh, different types of people from all sorts of different regions throughout history.
I have a poor little white boy. Not he. Whatever. Displaced white guilt. Other people. I love that. Other people. Yeah, that's like a man in general talking about rape or anything that's like.
I was being
skeevy.
Facetious.
Obviously, and that's where I have to interject. You're absolutely right, though, that I once had it put to me that, by definition, racism is not only the belief in your race's inherent superiority, but the ability to impose that superiority and to subject and degrade other people's, to be particular people that look like me by people that look like you. So let's just be a little more specific. But I ain't mad, though.
Yes, and that's the idea of. I mean, it's tough because there's only so many words. Right. I don't want to sound because first of all, I'm coming from a position of white privilege. I don't want to. You know what I mean? I don't want to be out of line in saying this, but there does need to be a word for just judging people based on race, and I think that word is racism.
No, it's not, because there's so many words that you can use in place of it if you had to.
Institutionalized racism.
Ooh, we're gonna get there.
See, that's the thing.
That's the word
Institutionalized racism is a serious problem.
I'm glad you know that word. That was the crux of my whole argument.
That can only be committed
and
by
that's where Star Wars comes
race and power.
Because institutionalized racism is what a young George Lucas, that motto of the idea of hidden subversive racism in our culture, and it goes back to when we, Reagan and the drugs and capitalism, go-go economics, or, Reaganomics, when we started focusing on this sole sense of competition, it came about at the same time that drugs became very prevalent, in particular in poor and ethnic communities that were, chopped up based on race, if you go back and watch Gangs of New York. So when hip-hop developed, this whole culture of black being this cultural thing that you white guys could take, and you could love the music, you can love Colt 45, Billy D. Williams, which we saw in Lando Calrissian, which, make no mistake, he wasn't just like haphazardly cast in, Empire and Jedi. He was, brought in because at that time he was the Tupac or the Young Thug of his era. And, don't even get me started on he was
man. I'm so
famous
torn.
for being a pimp and a peddler
I know,
of liquor.
I'm so torn on Lando because what he represents is so problematic. But
that comes into the conversation.
He's one of my favorite characters in the
He's a
trilogy,
scumbag.
though.
Can I tell you my biggest issue with Lando Calrissian?
A character doesn't have to be a paragon of morality to be a good character.
He's not. Can I tell you why? I hate him more than anything.
Well, yes, you can. But what I'm saying
is, somebody told me I looked like him 2 days ago.
So you hate that you don't like the character at all?
No, I love Lando because I am Lando, but I don't love what Lando brings out in the same way that I didn't love what Finn brought up.
It is a problematic
I got issues
character.
with all his characters. I got an issue with Mace getting fucking chopped up to a ribbon. I got an issue with Finn being a sanitation worker who was called a traitor. That's a whole other conversation. Because how are you a traitor if you were the bad guys? I have an issue with every black person that was put into Star Wars. But with Lando, I have the biggest issue. All right, can I tell you why?
Yeah,
let's nothing to do with him being black.
You absolutely can. Let's break this down a little bit. Let's talk about Lando right now. This is the Lando segment of the podcast.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's the first. Yeah, we should start with Lando.
Whatever track we were on, we're stopping in that track, and we're just talking Lando right now. It's Billy D all the way.
Let's talk Lando. All right. Lando is perhaps one of the most coolest mofos ever created.
I'm saying, though.
Okay, right. And the fact that he's black is not even really critical to that, but it helps. I mean, you got everything. I mean, this dude run a place called Cloud City. Who don't want to go to Cloud City? Now, here's what I hate about Lando, right? Brought in as the first black dude, and not just any black dude. I heard about Billy D.
Black dude in the fucking.
I heard about Billy D. Williams from my mother. The way my mother said Billy D. Williams' name made me feel uncomfortable as a young boy, which made me know that he was someone to pay attention to. My mother be like, Billy D. Williams. Wait, Ma, why are you scrunching down when you say it like that? Why,
she liked him.
What's going on?
Okay,
I don't like that. So. I knew he was the dude, right? In 45. Now, what Lando did that pissed me off, that I still can't reconcile. You set your boy up, right? I understand you had to protect, Cloud City. I came to terms with that. You had to take care of your people. Han, he was a smuggler. He understood the rules, and you had every intention to go back and get him. You did that. I get that. I forgive you for that, right? Yeah, so you did what you did. Right. But this is my issue, and then you can say what you had to say.
The character is held responsible for his actions by me and you.
Yeah.
And is not off scotch-free.
No,
but at the same time is understood in his actions.
Yeah.
And
full arc.
And is redeemed.
Yeah, he is.
But the writers, the people behind the movie, that's a whole different story. But go on. What were you?
I'm not passionate about anything else in the whole situation with Lando because he came out cool as he should have, right? And there's nothing to say about the whole thing except for this one point that pisses me off to the highest level of positivity. You betrayed your boy, and I will give you the benefit of the doubt, as I said, that you had every intention to save Cloud City, assuage, Darth Vader's need to, I am Darth Vader, you gonna do what I say or I'll blow all this shit up. Yeah, I get all of that. I'm not stupid. I get it, right? You went back, you did the shit you had to do. But this is the part that pisses me off. You ready?
Of course I'm ready. I was born ready.
I'm gonna throw it. Not only did you, after everything was said and done, take your boy's ship. All right, you had to get there somehow. All right, they put him in carbonite, had to go get him. Not only did you take his co-pilot, Chewie, you had to do what you had to do. I get all that, right. But why? Why? Can somebody please explain to me why?
His co-pilot?
Chewie. He had to ride out with him when they went to go at the end of Empire. Where they had to go.
At the end of Empire, okay, because he had Nien Nunb in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Yeah.
So he had Chewie, he had the Falcon. Why?
But they knew each other. They were boys, too.
Yeah, no, I'm still good with that. But hear me out. Why? I'm going to stand up for this. Why was you wearing my manifesto? Why was you wearing his vest? Can you tell me that? Because right there, I don't fuck with you anymore. Why was you rocking his vest? What kind of bum bullshit is that? Are you really telling me right now that you rock? Are you the black Han Solo? What are you? You had your own swag. You had a whole cape, my nigga. Why are you really his vest? That shit right there. You might as well have been holding his dick. Like rocking his vest. I mean, that's an emblem. I don't what you got? What you got? I'm listening.
Han Solo and Lando.
I finally said that. So talk to me.
For starters, Han Solo and Lando Calrissian were sorority sisters. So it's. So it's to be expected that they borrow each other's clothes without asking sometimes. I'm fucking
clothes
joking,
in general.
obviously.
Yeah, because
Jesus Christ.
I'm really angry about this. Like, I feel like when you wear another man's emblem, you are that man, and you lessen who you are, and you're no longer Lando Calrissian. In that moment, you gave up what made you you.
So you know what's funny is I knew that, and I hadn't thought about that in a while, and I didn't even notice Finn fucking taking Poe Dameron's jacket. Do you think the writers realized what they were doing?
It's a theme.
Are we the first people on the internet to notice that?
I think we might be, because I didn't notice that until you just brought it to
light. We called
it
copyright. Fair point.
Here we go. We got it right there.
Fair enough.
So many themes from New Hope were introduced in The Force Awakens, and to me it was like a reversal with the Lady Yoda and everything with the Lady Luke. But that right there is another thing, that this idea of this black dude not having his own identity and then taking what was established by this other character.
Let's finish Lando.
Right.
There's a lot to say about
Lando.
No, it's
Lando
not
was redeemed, and he was amazing. He was awesome.
But the problem is, I think. Well, first, am I wrong? Is Lando the only black person in the original trilogy? Is he?
Yes, he is. Other than, of course, James Earl Jones.
Oh, and Ula. She's a Twi'lek. So in universe, she's not a black, but she's black in real life.
Right, and that's the thing too. Like, you have more, and the thing is, when George Lucas constructed this,
there's more Twi'leks on screen.
Yeah,
than there
there's
are black
more
people.
Sullustans, and then even if you really want to be pissed off, if you think about it, in A New Hope, Chewie is the nigga. And that right there is insulting, because you have like all these different races, and if you put Han next to Chewie, he's sitting there like, and he's all brown and he can't speak English.
I don't think that was the intention.
It wasn't the intention, but in the same way that Jar Jar Binks was like the other thing that was there. Like,
I do see where you're coming
white,
from.
And there's this dude, and we're equal. He doesn't talk or wear clothes.
I really think, though, that it was because he was named after Steven Spielberg's dog or something. George Lucas had a dog like with him the entire time he was writing the script, and he supposedly. I really think Chewie was supposed to be like a humanoid dog.
Well, without question.
And without question, there was a large period of history in which black people were treated as the humanoid dogs for white people.
You said it, not me.
So,
and I wasn't even.
So that's why I understand where. But I don't think.
But I don't ever think it with a lot of this racism, including the comment you just made, because I don't know where the fuck that came from.
What?
The human dog theme with the black people.
Because I'm saying that I think Chewie was intended to be a humanoid dog.
I was with you to that point, and then you was like, historically, black people were human dogs, and I was like, we were? So let me just take over before you have like angry like hate mail from like black people. Like, did this nigga say we was dogs? What the fuck he talking? Because that's not accepted where I come from. Like, we've been called a lot of shit, but I'm going to go back and tell people, yo, do you know these motherfuckers thought we was dogs?
No, I said for centuries, white people treated black people as if they were humanoid dogs.
We didn't know that. That's not, at least I
think that's a pretty obvious and fair statement for me to make.
Maybe, not me. I didn't. Either way.
Wait, no, not no either way, because there's no moving on from. Hold on.
Humanoid dogs. That's what we were to y'all. You said centuries?
I wasn't fucking around back then.
But you probably having white people say we was humanoid dogs.
Historically, when I look at
that's not how when we like. Yo, remember that time we was humanoid dogs for centuries? That conversation never been had in the hood.
Okay, I guess you're. No, I didn't say I didn't say black people were humanoid dogs.
Or thought of as.
That's not
that was never it.
That's not a fair statement, because white people used to let their dogs sleep inside and treat them with respect and love, and white people.
That's not making it better. No, come on.
No, what the fuck? Seriously?
You can't say because white people treated their dogs nice that it's not a negative statement.
Because white people did fucked up shit.
Yeah, It's like saying that we thought of you as humanized dogs for centuries.
I didn't say
but
we
because
one
dogs,
time. Hold on. We got to slow down here.
But you are white, though. What do you? Wait, what do you say? Did you say?
No, I'm saying for centuries, white people treated black people as if they were animals and looked upon black people as if they're animals.
Fair enough.
I never said any we or you because I wasn't fucking around and I don't want to take personal responsibility.
Well, I mean, but when you say we, obviously the pronoun
I accept and understand that I am a product of white privilege. I'm not going to deny that.
Can I say that you don't look privileged right now, too? I just want to say for all the listeners that you look like black or white, we in the same boat. I don't know where they think we are.
I accept that, but I don't accept responsibility for. I don't accept personal responsibility for things that I didn't do. So there's no.
You know what? Everybody always say that, but then that white privilege is predicated on the fact that you do benefit from the established society that we live in based on these views that are still, as we go back to institutionalized racism.
But you're trying to say that I said, I thought of you, we thought of you as dogs.
I ain't trying to say
and that's not what I said.
Press replay. You said that, okay, you get caught up on a pronoun of we, but ultimately when you said that white people, which you are one, you said that they thought for centuries that people were like humanized, or black people were humanized dogs. I guess if I play it out, maybe.
But hold on. The statement that I was making, in its clearest form, in its clearest how to be understand, the statement I was making was that white people treated non-white people, not even just black people. Black people got the fucking brunt of it, but white people treated non-white people as if they were animals for centuries.
Yeah, chattel, cattle.
Is that not a true statement?
It
because
is.
I'm not saying. I don't think I'm saying anything that hasn't.
So what about when you said, "But dogs are treated nicely"? What was that about?
That was about me when you were calling me out, and I was being even more extreme and being like, no, because even then, white people were even nicer to their fucking dogs.
Oh, nicer
than they were to their fellow man.
Right. No, you're right. And the whole thing is, though, to go back to the original statement about Star Wars, is the fact that with Star Wars, it's not that George Clooney. George Lucas is not inherently racist more so than the next white person who may not consciously realize what they're creating is a example of why wouldn't there be more black people, or more specifically, when you look at Lando, and then eventually we would talk about Mace, and then eventually talk about Finn, the characteristics displayed by these black people. Here's the thing about racism, right, Nate? The thing about racism is that as a black person, you're forced to question everything, and then you feel crazy because you're like, is this white person or this white creation, which quote unquote, because we call everything white from the black standpoint, when sometimes shit that we're like mad about was created by a black person. Like if you're mad at Static Shock, fucking the dude who created was black. If you're mad at fucking Boondocks is racist, well, Aaron McGruder is black. So, like everything is white to us because even like that's the part of institutionalized racism. Everything is white. So when you're looking at a white person being mean to you, or you're looking at something that's a form of art or entertainment, you don't know if it's racist. Like, is this white person being a dick to me because they're racist, or are they just a dick? Are they having a bad day? Are they constipated? They got a rock in their shoes?
Yeah, it's like...
So you never know. So you just kind of say, fuck it, everything's racist. And then as you become more of an intellectual, more sensitive, you start looking at things as, for one, maybe you're not leading with being intentionally racism or racist, or two, it might be a little more of a mix. And it's the way I can relate it as not just being a black man, but as a man dealing with women and trying to understand women and trying not to come off as misogynistic or, sounding or acting rapey, because I could never be a woman in a way that a white man can never be a black person. So that's the first conversation, white to black. But for a white person, in particular a white man, it's important to look at your polar opposites as a black female. So I can't understand what it's like to be a woman, and you can't understand what it's like to be black or a woman. But when you look at the Alpha and Omega, you got Mother Earth, and then you got Father Time. In like 40 years, you're going to look like Father Time. You're going to be an old, pale white man with long white hair, and Mother Nature, Gaia, is this brown-skinned black woman in her 40s. So, it's funny how when I look at Star Wars, they took the characteristics and the elements of black men, both good and bad, and they put it in these different characters, from Lando, suave and smooth, and James Earl Jones with that authoritative voice, and then Mace being all regal.
Well, Star Wars has a bad rep sheet. I mean, there's a checklist.
I love it. It's there. It's all there. Good and bad.
Can we do a lightning round checklist real quick, okay? So we hit Lando. Now, if I had to sum up my opinion on the Lando character in one concise statement, it would be that I think Lando he's an awesome, cool fucking character as just a character in a vacuum, just looking at that character outside of cultural context. He's cool and he's flawed and he's also has strengths. He has strengths. He has weaknesses. He's not a perfect person.
Right.
That makes a great character.
Right,
Looking at him not in a vacuum, he's the only fucking black character in all 3 movies, and he's the guy that screws over his boy, that double crosses, that dresses like a pimp.
Right.
And if there were other black characters in the movies, that might not be a problem because he wouldn't be the sole representation of an entire people.
Yeah. And there's a caveat to that. If Darth Vader is your father, Lando is your daddy.
Well, Lando's everybody's daddy. I mean,
Exactly. And think about that, right? Think about what a daddy is. Like, a father is going to be there for you, which ironically in Star Wars, he wasn't. Although, let's not forget that Darth Vader was the disembodied voice of a black man with the "I am your father." And that voice hits on every chord. It resonates on every frequency. Like, that voice was this... It's the quintessential voice of fear and confidence.
Well, James Earl Jones is the quintessential voice of, like, power.
That's what I'm saying.
Because you can... James
Mufasa?
Earl Jones, you can respect and admire him.
Yeah.
You can fear him.
He's been two of the greatest daddies in entertainment history.
On
the
both
lexicon.
spectrums. The most terrifying one and the most admirable, noble one. Like, but then
that you pervade.
you add all the great work that, like, the sound engineers did, and, like...
It's your kingdom, whatever the light touches.
Star Wars are...
Simba!
Because it hasn't been said, and I think we probably both agree on this. Star Wars, at least those original trilogies, they're great films.
Not only are they great films,
okay.
what people seem to not appreciate, where's the big deal about Star Wars? Why are you a Star Wars nerd? Okay, understand this for the uninitiated. What George Lucas did at a time where this hadn't been done before is he took creativity and imagination and he gave us the predecessor to what we take for granted now with CGI. What you can do now with a program in 20 minutes, this man took years to build with the scale model, the puppets and these ships that he created something that is in some circles considered a religion, and he used the beginnings of the ultimate movie magic in the predecessor to CGI, and he created something that had never been done before. Before then, you had the most cheesy see-through, green screens and bad, like, Flash Gordon-esque, B movies. But Star Wars was something that you didn't stop to think, were they on a distant planet or were they flying a battleship? So because you didn't have to question, like, oh, that's cheesy, he took you somewhere. And what he introduced was this religion and this belief system, this Jedi mindset that once you get past, is it racist? It was what Christianity has done. It provided a whole generation of people with a sense of faith in something better. But then as a black person...
he built the whole thing on, like, standards of mythology and stuff like that.
And so as a black person with many things, just like when my daughter's trying to wrestle with what does God look like, when you look at the brown aspect, it's like, why wasn't Princess Leia Spanish? Why couldn't Luke have been Asian? Why couldn't there have been a better representation, not just of black and white, but of all different cultures? Because then it minimalizes your participation in this amazing story as someone that's quote unquote ethnic, and that's when we talk about institutional racism.
All right, so our lightning round is going swimmingly. So lightning round number 2 is George Lucas racist? So Marquis, you give me a indulgent yet concise statement if you had to boil down your answer to that.
Okay, here we go.
And then I'll do mine.
I understand that Star Wars takes place in a galaxy far, far away, but because they're Caucasians, my question is this: was Africa the first Alderaan? Because why are there so few black people in the far distant galaxy?
This is not the most concise answer you can give to the question of is George Lucas racist?
Because my question is, why are there so few black people? I get it. Jango Fett was cloned, so that's the reason why all the stormtroopers until we get to young Finn were white. But, with the Imperials and the Senate, you got all these races. It could have been a race of black people. I would have even took bones in the nose.
So hold on. Focus. I want to have this conversation too.
So is it racist? That's the question?
No, not is it. George Lucas himself, the person, the man, is he racist?
George Lucas,
and I want you to give me an answer.
Yes, I will. I've already said it earlier.
I don't want just a yes or a no.
No, of course. Come on, you think you'll get just a yes for me?
I want a little more, but not too much more. I want enough to explain what,
concise.
Why,
all right.
What is George Lucas?
Here we go. George Lucas is a brilliant man, but is he racist? Yes. Only because he has grown up in a society that has created what we have already discussed earlier, institutionalized racism. So, racism, as it is defined, is not only the belief in your race's inherent superiority, but the ability to disenfranchise other groups of people, the resources, the social, economic, the religious currency to be able to degrade people, to take them from their homes and to put them in bondage. So racism is not just, I think I'm better than everybody. It's the reinforcement of that in the institutions, and then it's subconsciously played out when you create this ultimate God figure like God, who was actually a brown guy but is portrayed by a white guy, and then you create this Darth Vader character because you know you can't get some, I'm your father. No, you can't get that shit. I am your father.
Oh, no, have you
so
heard?
You got to get that nigga shit. That nigga shit is good when you sprinkle it in.
Have you heard how
Darth
Vader original? Have you heard the original voice?
What?
They called in James Earl Jones after the fact. The guy in the costume was originally going to do the voice, and he thought he did the voice till the movie came out, and he was pissed.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Right,
when a nigga replaced you. Could you imagine that conversation when he found out? I promise you, this sentence was said somewhere in that little, tinted flat of his. They got a nigga replacing me? You know, at some point he had to have said that. Or I will settle for someone called him up. I don't know his name. I'm not that much of a fan.
I don't know him either,
right,
so I'm not going to.
No one does. That's why he probably
racist,
hung himself somewhere after a fucking pint of gin. Hey, yo, blank, blank. You know they got a nigga replacing you? That's unfortunate.
He was like,
and I'm a nigga.
It better be. Tell me it's Billy D.
It's like, James Earl Jones. Who?
So,
who?
Okay, if you were to ask me, is George Lucas racist? I would say I don't.
As much as any white man.
I don't think George Lucas
at the time.
Well, let me answer.
No,
let me give my answer.
That's it. That's the answer. I don't know what else there is to say. White man.
I'm still half this motherfucking podcast. God damn it.
But you're 100% white, so don't think I ain't gonna say my shit.
So, if you were to ask me, I would say I don't believe in my heart that George Lucas harbors any negative feelings towards people, like in his heart. Like, I don't think he harbors any hatred or resentment or any bitterness, anything. I don't think he is consciously a racist,
right.
or even one of those, because trust me, as a white person, there's a lot of motherfucking white people that are racist as fuck that
you ain't gotta tell me I'm a 35-year-old black man
that convince themselves that they are not. Oh, dude, and they're
racism is like pedophilia in the definition of the word, right? By definition, pedophilia is not the people that want to pull little kids' teeth out with pliers and do horrible shit to them. By definition, pedophilia is a love of children that gets weird.
Oh, yeah, most of them don't rape children.
No, not most of them. By definition, a pedophile doesn't necessarily harm children so much they love them too much, like Lewis Carroll, which is the owners for Alice in Wonderland. He was a little too obsessed with little girls. But when it comes to a racist, it's not something like, lynch them niggas. It's like, it's this belief that you're better, but at the same time, it's the suspicion that there's something with the big dicks and the deep voices that is like not like you ain't rolling with that.
So I don't.
It's an obsession. It's like back up off my swag, white boy. So that's how we feel.
So I don't believe that George Lucas went into Star Wars purposefully saying, I'm going to make the only black character stab his friend in the back. I don't think he went into Star Wars purposefully saying, I'm going to make the Nemoidians, or whatever they're called in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I am not a racist character. And
so then keep playing that out with Jar Jar Binks, because now you're on a slippery slope.
I'm sorry, their eyes need to be a little bit squint. Can you make their eyes squintier?
But they're not Asian.
That's my George.
They're not Asian.
Not Asian. Just.
But they are dealing with trade embargoes. And,
Oriental.
Right. Yeah, but they're not. Because if you think that, you're being weird. Like,
I don't think he was like, I want to make a Jar Jar Binks. I don't think he was like, you know what I really like? You know what I really like? Minstrel shows. Right. I really don't think that was in his heart.
Make sure you cast a Caribbean guy, because I want authenticity to what? Nothing.
The thing is, I really don't think it was in his heart. But the thing is, exactly what you said, Marquis, is that he grew up in a world of institutionalized racism.
So therefore, it wasn't his little sad little white racist heart. That's all. That's what we're basically saying here. Like, he's an unfortunate product of a very limited society.
So what I think is necessary to do is we have to, when we look at things in our pop culture and our art that are, especially ones that are big cultural touchstones, or ones that a lot of people love, and we see problematic things like that with regard to race, with regard to gender, with regard to sexuality, any of that. We're talking about race right now, so we'll keep it at race.
But it's not problematic, if I may, and I'll wait.
when we see that, it is important that we call it out. And sometimes it's like, man, people were fucking racist and did racist ass shit.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, we have come far enough now that it's time that I think it's important that we call George Lucas out. And I don't think it's necessarily fair to say, George Lucas, you are a racist. I think it's important to be like, hey, George Lucas, will you cop to having some problematic racism in your works and some things that are clearly influenced by being brought up in and influenced by institutionalized racism as a white person? And if George Lucas can cop to it, then word. That's awesome. I'm glad you were man enough to cop to it and be like, yeah, you know what? I probably was subtly influenced, but it's not in my heart or in my intentions. And now I can own up to the fact that, yes, I don't live in a vacuum, and I did. And you know what? I guess maybe now that I'm older and bigger than that, I can own up to it or something. So I think it's important for us to call that out. And there's certain works of art that deserved to be not actually book burned, but that deserve to be cast to the flame. Not literally, not punged from our history, but that deserve to be lambasted and said, this work of art is clearly like the jazz singer or something.
Right.
The jazz singer is fucking racist,
No, wait.
dude.
All right. So
But
let me,
things
if
like
I may.
Star Wars,
if I may.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, these things should be examined, but at the same time, they're not wrong. What they are time capsules. They're an opportunity to look at the time and the zeitgeist, right? So there's no need to ascribe any detrimental, terms or deprecating sense of like why, because there's no sense of why question. You know the social economic context. So therefore, why be emotional and label and say, hey, George Lucas, you're a racist. Was you a racist? Yes, you were racist because you were a white man in 1965 when you came up with the idea. You were a white man in 1979 when you came. And at that time in America, we had not came to a point where we understood the context, or regardless, at the end of the day, if I may, at the end of the day, I'm not mad because regardless of what he was motivated by or what was in there, whether it's, subtle or overt, at the end of the day, it was a great work of art. And there are two schools of criticism. There is a school of criticism where you look at the work, regardless of the social, the historical context, or regardless of what the author is. And then there's a work of art where you take that into context.
And they're
we're
both
doing
equally valid, yeah.
But there's a great opportunity with any work to look at the time. So when I look at Dumbo, they had the racist, crows.
That is
but
racist.
I love that story. Or when I look at, Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer, they use the word nigga like 200 times.
Okay, so,
or the Bible,
so
the most racist, misogynistic piece of literature ever written.
So you can look at Dumbo and not deny the animators the talent and work that went into the feats of animation they accomplished, but still say the content's fucking racist. And the
zeitgeist.
Same,
they were as racist as the society.
You can also look at Star Wars the same way and be like, sure, it's a great film.
Everything that I watch as a black man, I watch with the lens of this a little racist.
Let me just say too, at this, yes, and that's totally legitimate.
Why did Bishop get blown to pieces in Days of Future Past? That felt racist.
The thing is, calling somebody personally a racist is a heavy accusation to throw.
I'm okay with that. That's what we do as black people. But we just throw that shit out there.
So let me just say, though, by saying, like, you are a racist, I really feel like that's not something that should be thrown around lightly because, A, it would undermine, like, I think George Lucas clearly created, I think the best way to say this is that there was problematic elements in his work and that I don't know whether or not he's able to own up to them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I can't speak to that. But it's almost like if I compare it to Slave Leia. Recently, Disney discontinued Slave Leia merchandise because that's problematic. Now, do I think George Lucas went into Return of the Jedi thinking, let's subjugate women in this? I want women to really feel like they're... No, but you'd have to be blind to look at that and not think that centuries of certain type of social expectations and roles and prejudice contributed to the fact that there are action figures sold to little children called Slave Leia that feature Leia in a bikini with a chain around her neck.
You're going to always put out, as a purveyor of art, you're going to always put out something that's going to always inherently be racist and something that's going to always be inherently misogynistic because those are two critical elements of the human existence that you have no knowledge of. You'll never be black and you'll never be a female. And so you're going to always be...
But you know what the thing is?
You're going to be insensitive to how you're going to make someone
Yes,
feel.
but here's the thing, and I want to say this because this is
unintentional.
This is something that's not said that motherfucking.
I'm a man and I do
this
it to
is something
women.
that's not being said that motherfucking white people need to hear. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
is that yes, we will never know. White men need to hear. Excuse me. We will never know what it's like to be a woman. We will never know what it's like to be black. But you know what we do know is what it's like to be a white man, and that's what other people don't know. And the way you need to understand that is not the way that you feel persecuted because people call you out on your bullshit. Not you, white people. The way a white man might say he feels persecuted because women and gaming and this fucking Gamergate bullshit. The way you need to recognize that is that you can recognize the ways in which things, first of all, being male and being masculine is something that you are biologically born with and you have no choice in the matter. And there are certain things that affect the way you think. And you can choose to indulge in them, or you can choose to recognize why you're feeling that way and why it's irrational, and just be rational. And being white is a little different because, like you said a moment ago, like race really scientifically doesn't exist. It is a creation.
I'm about to hit you with some real shit, Nate.
Word. It is a creation of our society, and therefore it does exist because things that we as human beings create and institutionalize do exist. So it exists because we fucking created it. But if you want to get down to the cellular level, the actual biological scientific can be tested in a laboratory level, there really isn't race. There's pigmentation and shit. So that's not quite the same thing as gender. That is a totally social thing, whereas gender is both a social thing and a biological thing, which makes it all the more fucking
you know what I'm
complex.
about to say. Can I hit you with some real shit right now? Because we just saw everything.
You can always hit me with some real shit.
We just saw that.
So what I'm saying,
Star Wars. We about to kill it right now. Everybody that's listening need to pay attention because this shit about to get real right now.
Because it was important that
All of it.
white dudes need to understand that they have a unique perspective of what it's like to be
the Omega.
Yes, and you don't have to fucking embrace that, and you can
you
I'm saying like it can be a perspective of like, oh, this is a way, and not every white man thinks in racist or sexist ways necessarily, but like every human being is affected by society. I'm not trying to levy accusations at anyone in a broad sense, in a general sense, in a specific sense.
I am.
But you can like recognize it. For example, it's not, there's nothing wrong with saying like, you know what, I've caught myself thinking things that I don't agree with, because then you can call yourself on it and recognize that it's an issue and try to understand it and move past it and help the fucking human race move past it.
I got the answer when you're ready.
Go ahead, because I mean I don't know, I have a million more things to say, I guess, but
I got a definitive answer. You ready?
There's no such thing, but go ahead.
I got it. Do you want to hear it, or you want to determine that there's no such thing? Because if you're going to be predicated on that, then I'm not going to waste my time.
All right, hold on. Let's just give our listeners 1 second to request a smoke break. You guys are requesting a smoke break. Go outside, sit down, get yourself chill, light that cigarette up. Marquis is about to blow all of our fucking minds.
Believe that.
Believe that.
Do I stop talking or do I blow minds?
Nah, you go. Blow minds.
Right.
Blow minds. They've had enough time. They can pause. They've got an iPod.
Facts. All right. Do you know why men have nipples?
No. That was not what I was expecting.
I don't know why you would. We better get real now.
It's because it's vestigial, because everything is a woman when it's born, and then why I'm guessing.
No, ain't no guess. Fuck that shit. Keep going. Ain't no guess.
There is a guess. I don't.
No, there's no guess. Well, you know it because you're saying the truth.
So apparently I'm right. I'm not speaking from authority.
But you're speaking. Yeah, you are, because it's biology.
I'm speaking as an educated individual who's not sure
that's
if
an
they're
authority.
right.
No, you are sure. That's an authority. You know this because it's the truth. You were saying.
I'm speaking as an educated individual, but not an authority.
As you should. Well, the two go hand in
that fair?
hand.
Can we compromise there? An educated individual, but not an authority.
I heard Y chromosome. That's a fact.
Everything
starts
That's a real
off, thing.
Masculinity is a mutation. It's a genetic mutation.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. So the reason why men have nipples is because we start off as women first, right? So that is the alpha. And because of where humanity began in a Fertile Crescent, which just happens to be on the equator, which just happens to be in a region that is currently Africa, which if you looked at the real properties of Africa, is 300 times bigger than, America. So my point is this. Life begins with the woman, in particular the black woman. But I'm about to get real with you for a second. The white man got distracted because it happened to you a few quadrillion years ago. The beginning of the life comes from the female, which is why men have nipples. Until the Y chromosome is committed, masculinity is a mutation. So life begins with the femininity, and it was brown.
Real quick, just in case there's listeners that aren't super big into biology and evolutionary theory, like that means
idiots.
Like just a real quick like aside, like legitimately means like in the sense that if you have we're hoping you have a loose idea of what evolution is and like mutate. So
we ain't come from no dinosaurs or no monkeys.
No, but mutations mean there's cellular diversity, and when certain traits arise that seem to contribute to something surviving more.
Yo, I ain't come from no monkey, man. What the fuck you talking about, nigga?
It just happens to become the most predominant thing, and that affects what is there in the future. So
that's just science.
So masculinity is a mutation in the sense that somewhere along the line, some type of deer
didn't come from a rib.
Some type of deer had horns or something, antlers, and that seemed to help them. So those were the ones most likely to reproduce. Therefore, the thing is masculinity, things dividing into two sexes had some type of evolutionary advantage over things reproducing asexually. And I'm pretty sure, speaking as an educated individual but not an authority, that advantage was that it encourages more cellular diversity,
right?
Which on a case-to-case basis is kind of 50-50, might fuck you over, might make you gifted, but...
So if I may speak from
so go on.
So if I may speak from a standpoint of having took extensive research into the zoological
field. If I may speak as being an authority and not just an educated individual.
And a bow tie. So there's a thing that exists called a dichotomous key. For those who don't know what a dichotomous key is, it is the complete breakdown of all of the various species that exist on this planet broken down. You know, you have the flora and the fauna. When you look at the fauna, the animal species, you look at the mammals, the species, the order, and so forth, the different, subcategorization of different animal species. If you think about how the planet first came about, you look at the primordial ooze, and you had these very limited groups that went off to become the branching, if you will, forefathers or foremothers of, the mammals, the birds, the reptiles, and so forth. You look at humanity as this thing that is this combination of various, subsequent animal species, the DNA that began at the beginning of time. So my supposition is that when we were all chilling in Africa, you had some white men that went off in these caves, and they went deep into the caves, and they made some deals with some dark forces that stripped away something that was inherent, that representation, that recognition of that love of first the brown and second the feminine. And so when you look at the white male, it's such a polar opposite to the black female that until you all can reclaim that love of the black female, all of the homosexuality you see played out with the Greek, Roman Catholic Church, and the fact that in Greek culture, Landika is the greatest profanity, and it means clitoris.
Really?
Yes, the only human body part.
It.
Why wouldn't you can Google it?
Because Greek culture is so fucking patriarchal
gay.
And
so gay. The Romans with their phalanx, and you got to fuck your fellow soldiers so you'll kill them or kill for them and die for them. And it's like, I rock for my boy, but we ain't got to fuck.
It's so like this.
So gay.
Celebration of the phallus.
And it's a celebration of the phallus and the denial of the feminine. Which like look at Jesus. This dude married, made love to, and had children with Mary Magdalene. But if you look at the Bible, she was a whore. Like, god damn, how you gonna do his girl dirty like that? Like, the whole conspiracy against hating the feminine is with the book that Dan Brown and the subsequent movies books, the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons. It talked about the last sign and the whole, children of Jesus and the conspiracy against femininity. But you have to understand that even with men, we're circumcised culturally. And that's if you look at why men have nipples, my point was this. We all start off as women. So what happens is our uteruses, once the Y chromosome is committed, become our scrotum, our ovaries become our testicles, and our clitoris, and Google clitoris and go to Google Images and look what a clitoris really looks like. It looks like a penis. But when we are, when we become men, our clitoris becomes a penis, but a clitoris is like an iceberg. The little tip that women are accustomed to is just the barest beginnings of this great this entity, this what I call a godhood. It's the only human organ that its only purpose is pleasure. And a man doesn't have a comparable organ. right there, that should tell you that women have an advantage in life. A man can have an orgasm, and when we do, we lose 9 states worth of protein, which is why we fall asleep after sex. There's actually a book called Why Do Men Fall Asleep After Sex? And that's where I got a lot of this information from, because men, we lose so much protein when we have an orgasm because we produce billions of sperms per second, and all that is lost. But a woman can have multiple orgasms because her clitoris is an orgasm machine, and it has no other purpose. Like, any sensitivity or pleasure we feel throughout our body is a byproduct. A clitoris is just pleasure. And that was the one word in Greek society that was forbidden. You cannot find it written anywhere in Greek culture other than in graffiti, Landika. But it is known that the Greeks had medical knowledge of this organ, but they're like, man, fuck that bullshit. And in a lot of African and Arab cultures, they do female circumcisions where they remove the clitoris because it only exists to bring pleasure. And there are men sitting around like, man, fuck that bitch in the clitoris, like on some hateful shit. But to deny the femininity is to deny what's in you, what your mother gave you. In the times that you cry, here's something I want to hit you with.
That's another thing, man. The aggression against femininity is another, like, social exploitation of a vestigial evolutionary trait. If that makes sense. Like,
it does. I forgot what the point I was gonna make, but you're absolutely right. See, at the end of the day, until you can reconcile what's inherently feminine about you, that's what I was gonna say. I know a few days ago at the end of the month, I felt really emotional, and I didn't understand why. It was my birthday. I turned 35, but for some reason, I just felt like crying and smashing people's faces in. Everybody I talked to over the last week, as I felt really sad and emotionally torn, I wanted to smash their faces in. And, like, they weren't saying or doing anything that made me want to beat their faces to a bloody pulp, but I really, really felt like destroying something beautiful. Hashtag Fight Club. But
let's get some names. Let's get some names.
No. It was
Jerry.
Right. It was pretty much everybody I talked to. But because one thing that I've reconciled a long time ago, and this is a fact, men, we have ghost periods. And as a boy, I didn't realize that unless they were disturbed by, birth control, women's periods.
Oh my God, that explains so much.
I know it does. I'm talking to all my male listeners that don't understand why every few weeks you want to fuck, eat, cry, and fight. Because we men are tied to women's menstrual cycles that we don't understand. And menstrual cycles are tied to the moons and the moons. The moon. The moons.
Sorry, we were talking about Star Wars at some point during this podcast.
The moons of Tatooine. The tides of the oceans that ebb and flow. And so men, because we were once women, we still have ghost periods, which unfortunate for us, or maybe fortunate, is we don't see the bloody show, so we don't have evidence. Because you ladies get to be like, oh, I'm bleeding out of my chocha. That's why I feel like crying and eating chocolate and killing everybody I see. And if we men could understand and reconcile with that, we would be able to be better men, and we wouldn't have all of this latent homosexuality. And this is not a criticism of homosexuality, because it has a place. Because first of all, there is no sexuality. We're all women, and men are just women with a lot of testosterone. And so it's just this whole thing that we're not ready to understand yet. And what makes Star Wars so beautiful is that it gives us a glimpse into an examination of our existence with a little bit of sci-fi fantasy. And as a writer, Google Marquis Woolford. That's wool like the fabric, Ford like the car. Marquis, like the title of royalty, is very Googleable. My name, if I will. So you should do it. I'm that dude, right? But I see me and everybody. And so what I love about Star Wars, to go past though, is it, races, is the fact that I feel like a Jedi. And sometimes I feel like a Sith, because I understand how to use this intuitive knowledge of the world and the Force. I've studied Hinduism and I've studied Christianity and a lot of things.
Jedi, motherfucker Sith.
I'm like Lando with the Force, nigga.
I'm
like Lando with the Force, nigga. Lando with the Force. Lando ain't never touched a lightsaber. Imagine if he was able to be a fucking Jedi.
A wise man.
Because now you need to do lightning round with a mace.
A wise man once said, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Right. And now I'm going to ignore the fact that that's an absolute statement, but only a motherfucking Sith, god damn it, deals in absolutes.
So you're a Sith then?
But
because you said only.
But dark side, light side, Jedi, Sith, just use the Force.
Agree.
It's in all living beings.
Shout out to my former coworker.
I sounded
Chris.
really Canadian. It's in all living beings, eh?
Right. Let me tell you, my boy Chris put me onto the Greys, and I understand that. I use the Force. I use the Force so expertly that sometimes it's exhausting to understand that whether you call it the laws of positive attraction, self-actualization, praying, faith. I get what I want in life. And sometimes that's misery. You know, sometimes I want to put myself through the paces. But then even at the end of that.
It's great that you can recognize that because we all do. We all do want to put ourselves through misery.
I know, we all out here. And that's why George Lucas created something that captivated so many people despite the parts that make you feel disenfranchised, not only as a black person, but as a woman. As a woman, you're like, why I got to be dressed up as a slave under this fat, nasty Jabba the Hutt type motherfucker when I was fucking Han and kissing her brother? What was that about? Why she gotta kiss her brother? You don't think she knew that was her brother? She knew. She did that little brother kiss like, I'm young and I'm horny and I know you're my brother. We should be doing this, but I feel something for it. I just threw up in my mouth. I hate the Luke Leia kiss. Why was that? That was some old Adam and Eve type shit. Why was that in there? Can we talk about that? Can we talk about incest for a second? What's that going on? You know, Carrie Fisher told the young woman.
I think it was. It's just a classic case of George Lucas being full of shit when he said he had it all planned out from the beginning.
Well, he did misdirection.
But also, you know what? It might also just be a mythological cornerstone that's also there in all classic mythology of all nations.
Listen, if you ain't never want to throw your sister a bone once, what?
No,
we can't be real.
No,
we can't be real.
No, I'm sorry. I've never.
Shout out to my sister because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
no.
Adam and Eve was two people that gave life to the world. It was some incest in there somewhere because what was Cain and Abel doing? Looking at mom like, we would have do what dad is doing. Well, we only have forever. I don't know what we're going to do. You know you Europeans was doing that shit and still do. Fuck y'all. Try to make us feel weird. Incest is real. Get these motherfucking sis off this motherfucking Calrissian Star Cruiser. Do you understand what it must have felt like for a motherfucking Samuel Jackson to do a movie without cursing? Is there an unedited version of Star Wars where he cursed? Where is that video?
Right.
Why all these Tylex running around like they ain't got no mother, like just loud and abrasive? But it's
no,
like
what were the things that were on the Millennium Falcon when he was on the asteroid? I'm sick of these motherfucking bat suction cup things on this motherfucking plane. On this motherfucking freighter.
On this motherfucking Star Freighter.
All right.
That would be amazing. Where's that video?
All right, so lightning round. Let's actually finish this lightning round up. Okay, so lightning round on Star Wars racism. Watto. How about Watto and the Neimoidians? We'll do them both in episode 1. I guess there's nothing to say other than it's obviously racist.
I was just glad as a minority that I was the only minority not, that being represented because, there was no obvious, Latin shit except for if you want to go with old origami or oregano, whatever Princess Leia's Latin.
What percentage Latin are you?
Oh, no. Well, I got a Latin stepmother, but I'm saying that I would have liked.
Okay, so I'm like,
as a disenfranchised people, you always want to see other disenfranchised people being shitted on to know that the disenfranchisement is being spread out. So when you saw the Nimoy, you're like, okay, the Latins getting their shit.
It's not just me.
Yeah, but Latins. This motherfucker, the only Latin in all of Star Wars that I can think of is Princess Leia's father, played by
Oh, really?
Okay. What's his name? I can't think of it.
Well, there's Oscar Isaacs now in episode 7, but
right. But back, remember the actor that played Princess Leia's father? Because remember her name is Leia Organa, right?
Oh, so you're saying that sounds like that? Okay.
No, but I want to say Edward James Olmos, but it's not him. He's like the younger Edward.
Really? This was in the prequels?
The prequels, yeah.
Okay,
they actually showed her.
I watched them each like once.
And then, of course, it wasn't Leia's father. It was Padme's father. So,
okay.
Yeah. Not Leia's grandfather. So, I'm actually reading Princess Leia, the graphic novel right now, but that's, non sequitur.
So, Watto, again, I think George Lucas being addicted to, like, pulp cereals, there's all these racist caricatures, and he perpetuated it. He perpetuated it.
All of it is racist caricature because at the end of the day, most people who create art don't have the ability to be completely immersed in the experience of what it is to be black or ethnic or female. So my point is, when it pertains to Star Wars, you start off as this black female, which we haven't necessarily seen in the series, but we know that is the alpha. But eventually, all roads lead to you becoming a wise, older white dude like Father Time because you had the opportunity to spend time thinking. And so you end up on some distant planet like a fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi, or, as we transition to a conversation about The Force Awakens, a one-handed, bearded Luke Skywalker. On some old planet by your damn self, waiting for some kid to come and say, can you teach me? And then even though you wanted all this fucking stoicism and solitude, you turn around like a Yoda, like an Obi-Wan, old Ben, or like a Luke, and you say, yes.
Marquis, what But Marquise, if it weren't for old white dudes with beards that speak with British accents, how would we ever make a movie based on Egyptian mythology?
I could imagine.
I couldn't imagine either.
Old white man bring something. We started this whole conversation about Santa Claus.
Hashtag Egypt so white.
It is something about old bearded white men that make you feel comfortable. And I swear, as a black man that wants to love a black woman, I feel like at the end of the day, there's something so endearing about an old white man with a white beard that as a black man, I got to say, I get it. As you will. No, wait. I got all of this. I got big dick and vibrance. And they're like, but he has wisdom. And like, when you get to that point, yes. When you get to that point when you turn white bearded, you look back and you realize that you started with black female and then they're like, do you want to have sex with me? And you're like, I can't even have sex. I just want to look at you. And you're like, and I'll give you everything. And black women are like, oh, thank you, old white man. That shit is the alpha and the omega.
Okay, Marquise. I see your Ian McKellen.
You're just a dried up fucking perfection.
Okay, Marquise.
Hate you.
Okay, Marquise.
What am I?
Come on, let me get a line.
Yeah, but
Okay, Marquise.
Go.
I see your Ian McKellen. Oh, let me.
Yeah, come on, bring it.
No, but when you're saying that, it sounds like I'm
gonna hype. I like it.
I know. It's fine. Yeah, it's good. Okay, Marquise, I see your Ian McKellen, and I raise you one Morgan Freeman. I call bullshit. Melatonin has nothing to do with it.
Can I ask you?
That's part of the masculine old dudes with beards. Sure, that's part of the masculine power archetype, which is not illegitimate in itself. It's just illegitimate the way it's been exploiting culture and society.
One question. You bring in Ian McKellen, and I see Ian McKellen, and I see your Morgan Freeman. I ask you this. When is the last time you've seen over 5 or 10 old black men together out in public?
That was the joke. I think you might have missed that I was being facetious. When I said if it weren't for old white dudes with beards that spoke British, how would we make a movie about Egyptian mythology?
Yeah, exactly. No, I got
was
that.
saying it's fucking bullshit.
Right.
I've waited my whole life because I love fuck Greek mythology. I like Egyptian mythology.
I don't. It's kind of weird.
That's fine. To each their own. But I've waited my whole life for an Egyptian mythology movie, and it looks like Russell Crowe spent all night playing fucking Gears of War and reading Image comics from the 90s.
Let the white boys do that shit, because when you get into the Egyptian shit, that shit get really, really weird. And here's the thing I know about black people.
Hey, you know what? Greeks fucking worshipped the fuck out of the phallus. Egyptians revered the phallus and fucking worshipped the fuck out of the feminine. So
right. And that's what I'm going to tell you something. When you start worshiping the feminine, that shit is a dark road to go down, because you come out of vagina, and as a motherfucker, you spend the rest of your life trying to get back in that shit, and you're like fucking the fucking rabbit from Alice in Wonderland trying to get down that rabbit hole.
How about fuck worshiping? Learn to pay respects to everything, and anything that you have trouble paying respect to, even if it's something that you feel like it doesn't deserve respect, try to figure that out. Ask yourself.
I appreciate you saying that, because when it comes to the vagina, I have learned that at the end of the day, they're all the same, and you can't just become obsessed.
Oh, Jesus. Come on, man.
What? I can't be real?
That's not what I was...
They're all the same, because you have to respect them equally and not become on this hunt that we young boys get on, where we're like, I wonder. There's no wonder. There's no hoping or imagining.
We're all the same in the sense that we're all human beings, and yes, we are all the same.
But there's levels. Certain people vibrate at higher and lower levels.
No, literally on a biological cellular level, we are. Hold on. No, let me finish a thought. Literally on a biological cellular level, we are all the same organism perpetuating its life that hasn't died yet.
No.
So yes. So we are the same, because we're one living organism that hasn't died yet.
But did you know also,
scientifically, I'm not being new age bullshitty, but no, we are all unique individual human beings.
We're not unique or remarkable, because we share 97% the same DNA
even if
lettuce.
It's something you don't think deserves respect, I hope nobody's listening that doesn't think women deserve respect, because stop listening. I don't want you as a fan.
You hope that women do deserve respect.
What I'm saying is, even if it's something extreme,
respect.
Huh? Women definitely deserve respect.
Yeah, you said, I hope no one is listening to think that women deserve respect. Which you
I meant the opposite.
Obviously, so I was clarifying.
What I'm saying is, even if it's like, none of us think that baby killers deserve respect, but every one of us...
Well, there's respect as humans.
But every one of us should question why.
Right. So
every
they do deserve consideration, but my point ultimately is, can I get it? Am I coherent enough? Cheese and crackers. Ultimately, if I'll say this, at the end of the day, as I stall, humans are all the same, because we share 97% the same DNA is lettuce.
Humans. Thank you for saying humans, though.
Lettuce.
Not just
you understand
women,
what I'm saying?
Though.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Humans
share.
It's
humans.
97% the same. Now, that being said, when it comes to women, because of
that's the thing. Everyone...
absence of the Y chromosome, and because of the higher concentration of estrogen and other feminine, so-called hormones, serotonin, which bond women to men as if they were their children, there is a difference. There's a cultural difference. And as a man, black or white, we have to reconcile that because a part of that is in us. It's latent. It's inherent. But the masculinity, as you stated earlier, is a mutation. So there is a certain higher level of testosterone and aggression. So as any human, the yin and the yang has to be a reconciliation of the feminine and the masculine, which is put upon by your parents, the perfect paragon of what you are at least inherent to, but what you are supposed to superimpose if you want to go to Christianity or even the Deathly Hallows, the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So you are the combination of the mother and the father, but you are something different. And
Marquis,
that's what it boils down to.
If I may.
And I'm done.
If I may, a toast. A toast to the angry Star Wars fans that were like, I thought I was listening to a fucking Star Wars podcast, you
Why
assholes.
Why talking about white men had nipples? What does that got to do? I thought they were going to talk about Padme. There was no Jar Jar Binks? Yeah.
All right, so we could keep going through this fucking lightning round, like Jar Jar Binks being a minstrel fucking caricature. Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, you said he got sliced up. It doesn't bother me that he died. All the Jedi died. What bothers me is that he was just cast in a stock, boring character role.
Yeah, he was a dick.
He didn't even I almost would have even respected it if he just cast him as Jules, like every other fucking director did for the last 2 decades. Cast him as motherfucking Jules rather than just this boring piece.
Wait, what do you mean by Jules?
From Pulp Fiction.
Oh, Jules, the character from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are all these bleep bleep on this? I ain't trying to fight all these sis. He was all, I don't think Anakin is ready yet.
Samuel
he was
Jackson
a dick.
is
Mace
one of the...
Windu was a dick.
But he was just, there wasn't
He was
enough
the
character.
Voice. Right. He was just that,
It was just a boring stock
regal,
character.
stoic, asshole-y uncle that don't ever want you to do nothing fun.
I can't tell the difference between him and any other Jedi other than Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Only that he was a dick every chance he got. I just felt like he was the reason why Anakin became Darth Vader, because he was always like, I don't know. He was like that dissenting, mean black woman voice. I don't think you can make it. That's what he was, that old Southern.
So was
hateful.
Yoda. There was no.
But Yoda was knocking people on the head. I don't know. He was like your grandmother that's nice. Like the one that'll pop your head and say, baby, you know you can do better than that.
In the old ones, maybe. I don't know. Now we're, like I said, we could. But what I want to know, man, I'm tired of this fucking lightning round that was anything but a lightning round. What I want to know.
Grease lightning.
You, I know, have some problems with Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and I'd like to know about that. This is a movie that a lot of people consider to be one of, if not the most progressive Star Wars movies, especially with regards to race and gender relations.
You mean reactionary? Overhyped?
All I mean is that I would like to know your opinion. I have not expressed anything about my own thoughts as of yet.
Well, the thing about Star Wars, as I stated earlier, what George Lucas did initially was introduce the world to a whole new way of addressing film and stories, and he created this thing that culturally had never been experienced before. And then that's when the overhype began, because the whole entity became bigger than what it really was. I remember the first time I, as an adult, sat and watched A New Hope, and because I had all these different images and these ideas in my head about Luke, I am your father, and the different things you associate with Star Wars, when you watch A New Hope, you're like, that's it? And you got to watch a whole trilogy, and then you're like, okay, I get it, that was pretty dope. But then it becomes this whole greater thing. So all the hype for The Force Awakens, there was no way that the movie could live up to that potential. And the obvious criticism is that it's a rehashing of A New Hope, but then they just shift the gender roles. So you get the female Yoda, the female, Luke, the uninitiated Jedi on a desert planet. And that's the biggest criticism, and it's obvious, because Star Wars The Force Awakens was not only a reaction to A New Hope, but it was a reaction to all the criticisms of the trilogy, the prequels, with the whole, over, CGI, and, you hear everything that J.J. Abrams did when he reacting against. That being said, it was a great movie. You can criticize it all day, but at the end of the day, I'm very much eager to see what the rest of the series brings, because A New Hope gave me, not to be a little, too sentimental. It gave me a new hope, and that's what I have for the series, is the idea that there's more to come.
But what I want to know,
Empire Strike Back did.
I got the impression that you had something to say about the racial politics of the movie. I mean, we got a movie, the main character's a white girl. The other two main new characters are a Hispanic man and a black dude. What...
I mean, if you look at the character, the actor that plays, Finn, if you look at, the first movie I saw, man, was Attack the Block.
Amazing. I fucking love that movie.
That movie was like so inspirational because in that movie, that same actor portrayed a character that was everything you would want to see. And it had nothing to do with race, but he was just heroic and stoic and, he was, conflicted. And it was just like, I mean, I want to go home and watch Attack the Block right now.
I've watched it like 17 times. It's so good.
And it's so like basic, but in that story, you saw a character that was morally courageous and he fought against a lot of things where Finn just seemed a lot more childish, and it just kind of irritated me. But then he was also charming and he was also redeemable.
He seemed like a teenager.
He seemed like a kid, a child, So and then Ray just
as
seems
opposed
to have
to a teenager.
Together.
A teenager is a child.
Know.
I think teenager. I think is a more specific. To me, he seems.
He gets a pass. I'm not even that passionate against him, to be honest. Like,
I thought he was a great character. I really did.
I guess he was good, but I guess I expected more. But what more should I have expected?
Well, so is there something that bothers you about it?
He was emasculated. He wasn't a Han Solo, but I guess if you look at Luke, I mean, he did step up, to Kylo.
I think that The Force Awakens was a conscious attempt to cast aside all this years and years of institutionalized racism and actually consciously make sure that they're giving a good role to people that aren't white, to women,
I don't know. He was more like oh, shucks, I then messed up the situation, and more like, we will win. I mean, I don't know. I felt like he was a little emasculated.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, he wasn't.
I'm a sanitation worker, boss.
You know
what? Why?
You know what I think?
But that was just for the obvious joke.
I think that, no, you know what I think that was? I think that was to make it you guys thought, you assumed because he was the dude that he was going to be the badass, and it turns out
he was a goof.
Ray was the badass.
Right.
He was a little bit of a goof.
He was a C-3PO or the Jar Jar Binks.
I don't know about that, man.
He wasn't the Han Solo.
But I see you.
Luke was goofy, though.
Why is the black guy got to be the goof? I see you. I'm not denying you that.
But Luke was a goof. He was a dork. He was the quintessential dork. Luke, the reason why Star Wars captivated the hearts of so many, because he was the Ralph Macchio of the space exploration. He was that, the Matthew Broderick. Am I going to be able to be more than a dirt farmer? a nerf herder? No, excuse me. Han was a nerf herder. Luke was a dust farmer, thank you, on Tatooine. And I said thank you to myself in case you think Nate just held something up. Yeah, I got my Star Wars nerd badge legit. But my point is, they're all goofs. So in that spirit, Finn, he is the lovable, relatable guy who's I'm not the hero, but I'll be heroic.
You know what I got off Finn?
And that's not black.
You know what I got from him was that he was supposed to be the kind of regular guy who wants to be. I honestly, this may sound weird, but I don't think it's a coincidence that they named him the same name as the main character of Adventure Time.
Right.
I really think they're trying to invoke that archetype of this dude who's just a fun, nice, good guy.
Wait.
But he's also a hero and he'll do what's right, but he's also kind of a yeah.
Can I say this? I love that when you said that it's not a coincidence that they named it after Finn. The Finn that you mentioned wasn't the Finn that I was thinking of, because you said Adventure Time. And at the same time that you said Adventure Time, I was going to say, and you just said Huckleberry Finn. You said Adventure Time. I said, wait, what?
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm 14 years old now. I'm sorry.
As you should. Because I was like, wait, Adventure Time? I was in college when that was, first put out. But when you think of Huckleberry Finn, then it's the same character, because, yes, you're absolutely right.
You're absolutely right. And
What's your show, Adventure Time?
I'm a little embarrassed. -2 geek cred for me.
50 points minus
Griffin. Age cred for me.
Minus 50 points for Gryffindor. 50 points to Slytherin. Wait, I feel like you should be Slytherin in this analogy. My point is this.
I'm probably, I don't know enough about Harry Potter. I'm probably a Hufflepuff. No, I'm a Muggle.
Well, you just lost a lot more points, so let's just stop. But my point is this. When it comes to, bring it back, because because that's kind of this whole Harry
Episode
Potter
7.
thing. Well, with Finn as a character, and that's my point about racism. If I allow myself to not look at him as a black dude in this role, then the sanitation comment was obviously a joke because, Han's like, well, what did you do, with the, organization? He's like, I was in sanitation.
Well,
it's like,
again,
what?
He was in sanitation.
That's all you bring it to the table?
When he was stationed on Starkiller Base.
Well, even as an homage to,
he's not a janitor. People
right.
have been saying he's a janitor. He's clearly a soldier that was stationed on Starkiller Base in sanitation at some point throughout his military career.
But I still feel like he was a janitor. I still feel like
he's not. No.
What was he doing?
He was sent out on his first battle. That was his first battle.
But if he was in sanitation, what was his duties in sanitation?
I don't know. Okay, yeah, he was doing janitorial work,
and that's unfortunate
on Starkiller Base.
But that was a joke because
where do you start off in your military
career? It had nothing to do with
Marquis?
race. It's just unfortunate because when Han asked him, it was predicated on the idea, and I feel like I said predicated way too many times in this podcast. But when Han was like, "Well, what did you do on Starkiller?" and it's like, "Were you like in weapons analysis? Were you in like intelligence?"
Yeah,
and it's like the lowest rung of any type of like job designation, and it had nothing to do with his race, although maybe it was tongue in cheek. But at the end of the day, it was just to say like I'm completely unqualified to be a part of espionage, and I'm the last person that as you're going into an incursion mission where you're trying to save the universe that you would want, believing that this person had knowledge on your squad. If you deal with doo-doo, you're probably not the best person. Like at this point, like, well, what did you do? Sanitation.
So the problem...
It was just a joke.
The problem is that there are certain like archetypes and expectations and subliminal tendencies. Right. I don't know. I'm not coming up with the right words. But like that...
Here's the thing. With institutional racism, when I examined Star Wars The Force Awakens, and this conversation was very therapeutic because at the end of the day, I'm a Star Wars fan. And the question of is Star Wars The Force Awakens or Star Wars in general racist, as much as society is racist as a product of institutionalized racism. But it goes back to my original point. When you're looking for racism as a black person, in the same way as I can only imagine as a woman, you're looking for degradation and misogyny, you never know for sure. And sometimes you read into things. It's like that episode, or excuse me, the movie Boomerang, where Martin Lawrence made, the oversimplification where he's like, yeah, pool is racist. You got the green, the green felt representing the earth and all these different colored balls trying to get the black ball in the hole. Why it got to be the black ball to go in the hole? And it's like, damn, is it racist or is it just that was just, happenstance? Uh-huh. So when you're living in the world as a black person, you're forced to constantly question, as I said many times, is this racist? But if you understand the social economic policies that drive our current existence, the policies put forth by America in particular with this whole consumerism, is all about preying upon what's beautiful about black, that cultural appropriation. I don't think that's a word, but whatever. I'm inebriated. Point is this. When you take the culture, the parts you like, and you say, I like the swag, I like the voice, I like the whatever, and you put that in there and you use it, and you use that to drive, like with the black characters being used in the Marvel movies, Nick Fury, the Human Torch, you bring the black dollars in, it's kind of shady, but at the same time, black people are like, man, I'm glad I'm in the movie. You ain't in the movie. What the fuck is you talking about? I mean, you know what I mean, man. That Billy D. Williams, man. Come on, you saw Lady See the Blues, man. That nigga Jedi. Come on. Well, he's not really.
It's the delicate issue of this is what I think everyone should do.
Region of a small, colonized planet of the Imperial Galactic Alliance. But
everybody should make the art that they want to make,
right?
And call each other out if you think you see something, because there's no denying that there's been centuries and centuries and centuries of our society being built upon racial segregation and gender segregation. And if you Google Star Wars racist, the first thing that's probably going to pop up is this Melissa
Jar Jar Binks. Oh,
right, is this Melissa Harris Perry clip that's going around, and I don't know who she is. I don't watch TV news because I'm not brainwashed. I'm sorry. Ooh, did I hurt anybody? Ooh, I'm sorry. Ooh, I don't have any interest in that, so I don't know if she's a fucking liberal mouthpiece or a conservative mouthpiece or a fair reasoned.
My bad. He said mouthpiece.
I don't know who she is. But I watched the clip. She, on CSNBC or some shit, she made a statement about how she saw problematic racist content in Star Wars. Problematic content with regards to race in Star Wars. She never said the words, Star Wars is racist. And yet, every single video you look up is like Melissa Harris Perry says Star Wars is racist. Oh, Star Wars is racist. And if you bring it up to anybody white, they're like, and for the record too, Melissa Harris Perry is a black woman. I don't know her leanings politically, because a lot of people, when I talk about this, are like, oh, you just believe words coming out of you're buying into Melissa Harris Perry. And I'm like, all right, first of all, fuck Melissa Harris Perry. I don't know her. I don't know what the fuck she stands for. I don't watch TV. So I don't know what she stands for, but what I heard her say was that she perceived certain content in Star Wars as problematic with regards to race, and that was worth addressing. The words Star Wars is racist never came out of her mouth, nor did the words you can't enjoy Star Wars anymore or else you're racist. So chill the fuck out. She didn't say Star Wars is racist. She didn't say you're wrong for liking it. She said, hey, maybe we can look back at the pop culture and art of our past, see the ways in which it's problematic, and move forward from that. It doesn't mean you can't like Star Wars. It doesn't mean Star Wars intends to be racist. It doesn't mean it's trying to push a message of white supremacy. It just means, hey.
But it may be, and that's where my point was, is that it's inherent. Well, it's inherent because at the end of the day, it's not so much that it's problematic of any particular culture at the time, more so that it's emblematic. You go back to any period in time, you look at what the people believed, and it's symptomatic of what they believed at the time. Yes, so then you look back with the benefit of, time and information, and you say, because we've empirically proved this is the reality. So you don't hold it against them.
So I feel like when these white dudes that are Star Trek fans online get pissed because she said this, because she said something about something they liked, they're getting pissed, and they're boiling.
It's an emotional reaction. It's juvenile, and it's childish, and it's uninitiated. It's unconsidered.
By saying that Melissa Harris Perry said that Star Wars is racist, you're boiling down her rational argument to her being like, this piece of art is horrible, awful racism that's designed to keep the black man down. No. And that's not what she said. And to make her take her point of view and shrink it to such a ridiculous caricature of
it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I don't what's better, I think what I want any white dudes listening to this podcast, if you don't mind if I talk down to you for a minute. That's what you got to take from this is you can just take responsibility and own up to the position you're in and look at it and learn to recognize it and not be ignorant and not be racist and misogynist and help subtly teach other white dudes not to be, because it's all subtle.
Go watch Roots.
There's
start with that. He said
there's a lot of malicious racists, but most of the racism that is a big problem, I think, from my ignorant perspective, is the subtle racism that is not malicious.
Right.
It's
just because you racist don't mean you a bad person. I still can fuck with you. You just gotta get past that. You gotta read some shit and think about some shit and get an intelligent black friend like me, and then I'll talk to you and I give you a hug and shit, and at the end of the day we all out here, man. You just mad pale and shit, man. We'll go down to the beach.
So if you're a white dude and you feel a little threatened because people are calling you out on white privilege and male privilege,
we all shit the same way, so just chillax, man. Just chillax.
Actually, you know what? I like your way better. Just chill the fuck axe. I added my own the fuck in there, but chill
see what you did there? It's all good.
Hey, all you racist fucking Star Wars fans out there, if there's something me or Marquis said that you disagree with or that you'd like to expand upon, we would really like to hear it. Please get in touch with us. We love opening up the lines of dialogue between us and the listeners, and we almost always make a point of responding promptly, especially when it comes to big issues like this. We want to hear what you have to say. So please shout at us on Twitter @FairPointPod and go like our Facebook page so that you can stay connected there under Fairpoint Podcast. like we said, especially with topics like this, the most important thing is that discussion happens. The discussion shouldn't be confined to an hour and a 40-something minute podcast. If you're new to the show and this is your first episode, don't forget to be looking us up under Fair Point Podcast, not Fair Enough Podcast. The show you're listening to right now, of course, is called Fair Enough Podcast, but Fair Point Podcast is our main show. So all the social media and everything is under Fair Point Podcast. Fair Enough Podcast is a side series that we created to kind of complement the main show and bring in some more interesting voices and free discussion. On Fairpoint, more work goes into creating each episode. We research our topics thoroughly, we cover related news stories, and also more often lately than before, incorporate riotously funny sketches with this cast of interesting recurring characters that includes historical figures and mythological, everything from time-traveling space Nazis to Guy Fawkes to the mighty Zeus of Greek mythology. And we've actually got sort of a building continuity, something no other podcast has ever done, to my knowledge. So, Fairpoint first. If you're already a Fairpoint fan, you're probably wondering why the episodes haven't been coming out weekly like they normally do. Basically, like we've said a million times, we got held up in the holiday, and then there was personal bullshit and blah, 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 blah. Now that we're sort of getting caught back up, though, we're kind of experimenting with a temporary change in release schedule. In order to make sure that we're still providing the best quality episodes that we can, we're kind of planning on releasing a podcast each week, but it won't always be Fairpoint. Sometimes it'll be one of our other two shows, and then you'll get a Fairpoint episode. And the Fairpoint episodes, so much more work will be going into them now that we have Fair Enough Podcast to do our bullshit filler episodes, and to have, no disrespect to some of the amazing conversations that have happened on here, like the one you just listened to with Marquis, or the last episode with Jeremy Davis. That was a fucking amazing episode. You may have noticed a moment ago I said one of our other two shows. Yes, we have 3 shows here at Secret Room Multimedia. There's Fairpoint Podcast, there's the side series Fair Enough Podcast, and there's our other show, Sylph Radio, for all you Pokemon fans. That's SILPH. If you're a Pokemon fan, you might remember getting the Sylph Scope back in the original game, the Sylph Scope from Sylph Company. Team Rocket took over Sylph Co. You had to get the Sylph Scope so you could see a ghost, so you could catch a ghost, so you could beat Sabrina or some shit. Next week on Fair Enough, we've got another crossover event of the century. We're going to be listening to a discussion between yours truly and Sylph Radio co-hosts John and Phil Cobb that was recorded back in 2013, in which we discuss the quote-unquote upcoming new generation of console gaming, and we read the first chapter of a Pokemon fan fiction that I wrote back in the day. So that's going to be fun. This is actually going to be the first in sort of a series of Fair Enoughs, in which we'll be exploring some of my earlier writing. Because after that episode, I hope you'll join us for the first episode in an ongoing series looking at some vampire stories that I wrote in high school. Really weird stories. I wrote 4 of them, and 2 episodes from now we'll be looking at the first of the 4 stories. That they're kind of about vampires taking over my high school. It's a real tongue-in-cheek, comedic story, and it's a little embarrassing. I wrote it when I was like 13 or 14 years old, so it's a lot of fun, and we hope you'll join us for that. If you guys like vampire stories, I got 2 things to pitch at you. Number 1, the next episode of Fairpoint Podcast is going to be a Buffy the Vampire Slayer centered episode, all about the character Willow Rosenberg. That's right, we're focusing on that fiery little Wiccan, Allison Hannigan herself. Willow Rosenberg, Buffy's best bro. I can't wait to do this episode. She is one of my 2 favorite characters on one of my favorite shows of all times. Hashtag that Joss Whedon life. But also, if you like vampire stories, please check out some of Marquis's books. He writes all sorts of that shit. Just Google his name, Marquis Woolford, and go to his Amazon page. It's like the second link to pop up. Some examples of some titles from his catalog. The Last Succubus, White Witch, Purotica, Children of the Calluminati, Songs of a Warrior Poet, and more. So please go check it out. Throw him a bone. Order one of those books. You won't be disappointed. Marquis, thanks for giving us another great episode. Everybody else out there, thanks for listening. Let's keep this discussion going. Let's all learn to embrace the future. A bright, happy future. Let's all learn to fucking work above our level, if you will. If you want a promotion at work, what do you got to do? You got to work above your level. Hey, if you want to be ready for that next stage of evolution, let's start fucking acting like it. Let's take the initiative and not wait for nature to do the job for us, eh? Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you here next week, or you know what? Maybe even this week. I'll try to bang this shit out for you with a brand new episode of Fair Enough. More Fair Points on the way. More Sylph Radio, a Pokemon podcasts on the way. Keep your ear on secretroommultimedia.com. And more importantly than that, enjoy your fucking week. Talk to you next time.
Yo, can we like spit though? Can a boy drop a couple, hot ones on him? Can I get a beat?
A beat?
Can I get a beat though?
Well, I would need something that's non...
Why don't you give me a little old school?
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to rap. Okay.
Yeah.
Apparently Marquis has something in him. Is it about Star Wars and racism?
It wasn't going to be, but it could be. I can do that.
Okay, Marquis wants me to drop a beat. Okay, let me know if you want it faster or slower. Okay, and let me see. I'm gonna watch the levels and make sure this doesn't fuck up the recording. All right.
You drop the beat and I'm gonna ride that joint like the Force. Let go.
All right, and you let me know speed up or slow down with hand signals.
You do whatever in you. I'm about to ride that shit.
Or with just I'll keep up with you All right,
Yeah. Okay. Hey, yo, Professor X, I'm a mutant, no disputing like Rasputin. When I'm coming through this shit, I do what I'm doing. I'm brewing just like the mitochondria's in my system. I'm going through the systems to let them know that they gonna be listening to Jedi. I'm on the red eye. I'm doing what I gotta do. I had that, and I got red eyes. Yeah, best believe this is Christmas Eve. Santa gonna do what I gotta do until I leave. Like old Father Time, spitting the hot rhyme. The Optimus Prime. When I transform, I do what I gotta do. No landmine goes out the sky, moving just like infantry. And my flow go harder than all these dudes that died this century. I don't know, tweaking. Yo, when I asked for a beat, I thought you were going to do it like...
That's cool.
I thought you were going to like that.
I kind of just did grinding. You want me to... What, you want something else? You want something more like Rockefeller or something?
What else you got?
Okay. Hold on. So wait, what were you about to say? You thought I was about to do like what?
Oh, beatbox.
Oh, okay. All right, you want me to beatbox? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, hey yo, I'm hopping through planet just like Tatooine. When I come through, they say it's a movie. I come through, no, this is real life. I come through killing the dudes like Jedi. I'm nice. I'm more like a Sith when I come through, just like Darth Vader. Speed it up, man. I'ma come back later. Blow up all the rhyme. This shit is crazy. Why the hell did they not have black babies if the daddy was black like my man James Earl? Why did they change it? Earl was what I wanted to do when I saw that dude face. I'm like, that's what that dude voice with it in K. So now we displace only disembodied voice. I don't understand why they came through.
Boxer.